The alarm sounds filled the small bridge of the cargo ship Gentle Current. Red lights flashed across the metal walls as Captain Deho stared at the enemy ships getting closer on his screen. 3 Vorthak destroyers were hunting them through the dark space between stars. "They are gaining on us," said Hana from her seat at the weapons control. Her blue-green skin looked pale with worry. Like all Kalani people, she had large eyes that could see well in dim light. Right now, those eyes showed fear. Deho touched the communication button. "Wu Jin, how much more speed can you give us?" The voice of their engineer came through the speakers, sounding tired. "The engines are already too hot, Captain. If I push them harder, they might break completely." Deho closed his eyes for a moment. His people had been running for 3 years now. 3 years since the Vorthak Empire decided that the Kalani homeworld had too much water. 3 years since the killing started. Now only a few thousand of his people were still alive, scattered across different ships, always running, always hiding. "Captain," called Mina from the medical station. "I am getting a signal. It is very weak." "Show me," Deho said. The main screen changed to show a small dot of light. Numbers appeared next to it showing distance and direction. "It is a distress call," Mina said, her webbed fingers moving quickly over her controls. "The signal is old, maybe several months." Hana turned in her chair. "Captain, we cannot stop. Those Vorthak ships will catch us." "What kind of ship is sending the signal?" Deho asked. Mina worked at her station for a few more seconds. "I think it is human. The signal pattern matches what we know about their technology." The bridge became quiet except for the sound of the engines working hard. Everyone knew about humans. They were a new species that had just started traveling between stars. Most aliens thought they were not very important. The Kalani had met a few human traders, but not many. "Captain," Hana said again, "we have our own people to think about. We cannot risk everyone for strangers." Deho looked at the screen showing the Vorthak ships. They were getting closer every minute. Then he looked at the weak signal from the human ship. Someone was out there, maybe dying, maybe already dead, but maybe still alive and hoping for help. "Wu Jin," he said into the communication system. "Can you give me a short burst of extra speed? Just enough to reach that signal?" "Maybe. But after that, the engines will need time to cool down." "Do it." Hana stood up from her chair. "Captain, this is not smart. We could all die." "We could die anyway," Deho said. "At least this way we might save someone." The ship suddenly moved faster. Deho felt the acceleration push him back in his chair. On the screen, the human ship signal got bigger and clearer. "There," Mina said, pointing. "I can see it now." The human ship looked broken. Parts of it were torn away and it was not moving. It looked like it had been attacked and left to drift in space.
"Any life signs?" Deho asked. "Checking," Mina said. Her equipment was not made for scanning human ships, but she did her best. "I think, yes, very weak, but something is alive in there. Wu Jin, bring us close. Hana, get ready for a rescue."
"Operation, Captain," Hana said, but her voice was softer now. "The Vorthak ships are still 10 minutes away. We have time." The Gentle Current moved carefully next to the broken human ship. Through the windows, they could see holes in the metal walls and broken equipment floating inside. "There," Mina said. "One life sign, very weak, in what looks like a medical area." Deho stood up. "Hana, you come with me. Mina, get ready to help anyone we find." They put on their spacesuits and moved through the airlock between the ships. The human ship was cold and dark inside. Their lights showed broken walls and floating pieces of metal and plastic. "This way," Hana said, following her scanner. They found the human in a medical room inside a sleeping chamber that was still working. The chamber was keeping the human alive, but barely. Through the clear top, they could see a young person with dark hair and pale skin. "Help me move this," Deho said. Together, they carefully moved the sleeping chamber back to their ship. It was not easy in the zero gravity, but they managed. "Mina," Deho called as they came back through the airlock. "We need you." Mina looked at the human sleeping chamber with interest. "I have never seen human medical equipment before, but I think this person is very sick. Can you wake them up safely?" I think so, but we need to be careful. The Vorthak ships are 5 minutes away, called Wu Jin from the engine room. Wake the human, Daeho said. Then we run. Mina worked at the controls of the sleeping chamber. Slowly, the top opened with a soft hissing sound. The human inside began to breathe differently, and their eyes started to move under closed eyelids. Gentle current. This is Captain Daeho. All stations, prepare for emergency acceleration. The human's eyes opened. They were brown and looked confused and scared. The human tried to sit up but was too weak. Do not move too fast, Mina said in her broken human language. You are safe now. The human looked around at the 3 Kalani faces looking down at them. Where am I? On our ship, Daeho said. We found you. What is your name? Jiwoo, the human said, his voice very weak. My name is Jiwoo. My ship, the Soul Star. They took my crew. Who took them? Hana asked. The ones with the big ships. The ones who look like... Jiwoo tried to describe them but was too tired. Vorthak, Daeho said quietly. Jiwoo's eyes became wide. You know them. They are hunting us too, Mina said. 2 minutes, Captain, came Wu Jin's voice. Can you move? Daeho asked Jiwoo. The human tried to sit up again. This time, with Mina's help, he managed it. I think so, but where are we going? Away from here, Hana said. Far away. Daeho helped Jiwoo. Stand up. The human was taller than any of them, but he was very thin and weak. Can you walk? I will try. They helped Jiwoo to the bridge just as the engines started working at full power again. Through the front window, they could see the Vorthak ships, getting very close. They are trying to lock their weapons on us, Hana said from her station. I see an asteroid field ahead, Jiwoo said, looking at the navigation screen. If we go through there... Too dangerous, Wu Jin said through the speakers. Those rocks are moving too fast. Jiwoo looked at the controls. Even though he was weak and sick, his mind was working. May I? He asked, pointing to the navigation station. Daeho looked at Hana, then back at Jiwoo. You know how to pilot through asteroid fields? My crew was exploring systems like this for 6 months. I learned a few things. The Vorthak ships were firing. Now red energy beams passed close to the gentle current. Do it, Daeho said. Jiwoo sat down at the navigation controls. His hands moved over them quickly, even though he had never seen Kalani equipment before. Turn 15 degrees left. Now down 20 degrees. When I say now, cut the engines for exactly 3 seconds. Are you sure about this? Hana asked. Another energy beam passed very close to them. Trust me, Jiwoo said. Daeho made his choice. Do what he says. The gentle current flew into the asteroid field. Huge rocks moved around them like a deadly dance. Jiwoo called out directions and Wu Jin followed them exactly. Now, Jiwoo said. Cut engines. The ship went quiet. They drifted between 2 huge asteroids hidden from the Vorthak ships. They are scanning for us, Hana whispered. On the screen, they watched the 3 Vorthak destroyers stop at the edge of the asteroid field. The enemy ship scanned the area for several minutes, but they could not find the gentle current. Finally, the Vorthak ships turned and flew away. They are gone, Mina said softly. Everyone on the bridge was quiet for a moment. Then Daeho turned to Jiwoo. You saved us. Jiwoo was holding onto his chair, still weak from his long sleep. You saved me first. Engines are cooled down, came Wu Jin's voice. Where to, Captain? Daeho looked at his small crew, then at the human who had just saved all their lives. Home, he said. We take our new friend home. The hidden moon called Thilos 7 looked like a dead rock from space. It had no air, no water, and no plants. But deep inside the moon, in caves that went down for miles, the last of the Kalani people had made their home. Jiwoo pressed his face against the small window as the gentle current flew toward the moon's surface. It looks empty, he said. That is the idea. Daho replied. The Vorthak think this moon has nothing useful. They do not look here. The ship landed in what looked like a natural cave opening. But as they went deeper inside, Jiwoo saw that the caves had been changed. Metal walls held up the rock ceiling. Lights showed the way through tunnels that went in many directions. Welcome to our last safe place, Mina said sadly. People came to meet them as they walked through the tunnels. Jiwoo had never seen so many Kalani together before. Men, women, and children with blue-green skin and large dark eyes. They all looked thin and tired, but they smiled when they saw Daho and his crew. Captain, said an old woman who walked, with a stick. You made it back. Elder Sunja, Daho said with respect. Yes, and we brought someone new. All eyes turned to Jiwoo. He felt nervous being the only human among thousands of aliens, but their faces showed kindness, not fear. This is Jiwoo, Daho said. He is human. We found him in space, and he helped us escape from Vorthak ships. Sunja walked closer to Jiwoo. Even though she was old and used a walking stick, her eyes were sharp and intelligent. A human, she said slowly. We have not seen your people for many months. My ship was destroyed, Jiwoo said. My crew was captured. I do not know if any other humans are still alive out here. I am sorry for your loss, Sunja said. But you are welcome. Here, anyone who helps our people is our friend. A younger Kalani man came forward. He wore clothes that looked like a military uniform, but old and worn. I am Commander Hyunwoo, he said. I am in charge of keeping this place safe. Jiwoo shook the commander's hand. Kalani hands felt different from human hands. The skin was smoother, and there were small webs between the fingers. How many people live here? Jiwoo asked. 3,047, Sunja said. All that is left of our people. Jiwoo felt a cold feeling in his stomach. How many Kalani were there before? 43 million, Hyunwoo said quietly. The number was so large and so terrible that Jiwoo could not speak for a moment. He had known the Vorthak were attacking the Kalani, but he had not known it was so bad. I am sorry, he said finally. I am so sorry. It is not your fault, Sunja said. The Vorthak want our water. They will not stop until they have it all. Daho put his hand on Jiwoo's shoulder. Come, let us show you around. You will need a place to stay. They walked through the tunnels, and Jiwoo saw how the Kalani had built their hidden city. There were living areas carved into the rock, workshops where people fixed equipment, and large rooms where children played together. Everything was clean and organized, but he could see that supplies were running low. This is our water recycling center, said a young woman who met them in one of the larger caves. I am Bora. I take care of the machines that clean our water. Jiwoo looked at the equipment. It was advanced, but he could see problems. This pipe here is cracked, he said, pointing, and this filter looks old. Bora looked surprised. You know about water systems? I studied biology and life support systems, Jiwoo said. I can help fix this if you want. Really? Bora's face lit up. We have been having trouble with the system for weeks. They spent the next few hours working together on the water machines. Jiwoo was still weak from his long sleep, but his mind was clear. He showed Bora how to repair the cracked pipe and how to clean the filters better. Where did you learn this? Bora asked as they worked. My job was to study how different species live, Jiwoo said. I had to understand how to keep people alive in space and on different worlds. That is very useful knowledge. As they worked, other Kalani came to watch. They were curious about the human and his different way of doing things. A small child peeked around her mother's legs to stare at Jiwoo. What is your name? Jiwoo, asked the little girl. Kyungmin, the child said in a very quiet voice. That is a pretty name, Jiwoo said, smiling. How old are you, Kyungmin? The little girl held up 6 fingers. She lost her parents when the Vorthak attacked her city, the woman said sadly. I take care of her now, but she does not talk much. Ji-woo finished fixing the water filter and then sat down so he was at the same level as Kyung-min. "Do you like to build things?" he asked her. Kyung-min nodded. Ji-woo took some small pieces of metal from the repair kit. "Watch this," he said. He bent and twisted the metal pieces until they looked like a small bird. "This is for you." Kyung-min took the metal bird and smiled for the first time since Ji-woo had seen her. That evening, the leaders of the colony met together in a large cave. Ji-woo sat with Dae-ho, Soon-ja, and Hyun-woo around a table made from smooth stone. "Krita. Scouts report more Vorthak activity in nearby systems," Hyun-woo said. "They are looking for us." "How long before they find this place?" Soon-ja asked. "Hard to say. Maybe weeks, maybe days." Ji-woo listened to them talk about their problems. They had few weapons, old ships, and nowhere else to run. The Vorthak had already taken every Kalani world. "What do you know about Vorthak military tactics?" Hyun-woo asked Ji-woo. "Not much," Ji-woo said. "But I saw how they attacked my ship. They use big groups of ships to surround their target. They do not expect anyone to fight back in clever ways." "What do you mean, clever ways?" Ji-woo thought about the books he had read and the training he had received. "Where I come from, we call it guerrilla fighting. Instead of fighting big battles, you use small groups to attack weak points. You hit the enemy and then hide before they can hit back." Hyun-woo looked interested. "Tell me more." "Well, the Vorthak expect you to run away. They do not expect you to attack them. If you could damage their ships or their supplies, it would cause problems for them." "But we only have a few old weapons," Soon-ja said. "You have something better," Ji-woo said. "You know these caves better than anyone. You can move through them in the dark. And Kalani are good at swimming and diving, right?" "Yes, but there is no water here." "There is no water in these caves," Ji-woo said. "But Vorthak ships need water for cooling their engines. If they land on a world with water..." Hyun-woo's eyes became wide. "We could attack them underwater." "And," Ji-woo continued, "Kalani eyes work well in dim light. Vorthak eyes do not. You could fight them at night or in dark places." For the first time in months, Soon-ja smiled. This human has good ideas. They talked for hours about different ways to fight back. Ji-woo shared everything he knew about tactics and strategy. The Kalani had never thought about fighting this way before. They were peaceful people who had always tried to avoid conflicts. Next morning, Ji-woo woke up to alarms ringing through the caves. He ran to the command center where Hyun-woo and his people were looking at screens. "What is happening?" Ji-woo asked. "Vorthak scout ships," Hyun-woo said. "3 of them, checking this system." On the screen, Ji-woo could see the enemy ships moving between the planets and moons. They were scanning everything, looking for signs of life. "They will find us," Dae-ho said. "Not if we are smart," Ji-woo said. He looked at the tactical display. "Do you have any weapons that work in space?" "A few," Hyun-woo said, "but nothing that can fight 3 scout ships." "You do not need to fight them," Ji-woo said. "You need to make them think they found something more interesting." Ji-woo explained his plan. It was risky, but it might work. They would use their few weapons to create fake energy readings on a different moon. The Vorthak would think they had found a secret base there, and would call for more ships to attack it. While they are busy attacking the wrong place, Ji-woo said, "You evacuate this base and move everyone to the backup hiding spots you told me about." "And what about you?" Soon-ja asked. "I will help with the fake signals. Someone needs to make them look real." "It is too dangerous," Dae-ho said. "Everything is dangerous now," Ji-woo replied, "but this gives your people the best chance." The plan worked better than they had hoped. The Vorthak scouts found the fake energy readings and called for help. Within hours, a full attack fleet was bombing the wrong moon, while the Kalani quietly moved to their backup caves. But something went wrong during the evacuation. A group of Kalani children, including Kyung-min, got separated from the main group. Vorthak ground troops found them in one of the old tunnels. Ji-woo was helping with the last of the evacuation when he heard the news. Without thinking, he grabbed a weapon and ran toward the trapped children. "Ji-woo, no!" Dae-ho called after him. But Ji-woo was already running through the dark tunnels. He found the Vorthak soldiers near the entrance to the old caves. There were 5 of them, large and covered in thick armor. They had not seen the children yet, but they would soon. Jiwoo did not have a good plan. He only knew that Kyungmin and the other children were in danger. He made noise to draw the soldiers away from the children's hiding place. The Vorthak heard him and turned their weapons toward the sound. Jiwoo used the darkness and his knowledge of the tunnels to stay ahead of them, leading them away from the children. "This way," he called to the soldiers, making sure they followed him. "Come and get me." The journey to Earth took 18 months. The Kalani ships were old and slow, and they had to stop many times to fix broken parts and gather fuel. But Elder Sunja kept them moving forward, carrying Jiwoo's data chip and his final message. When the small fleet of refugee ships finally reached the edge of human space, they were met by patrol vessels from the Terran Space Navy. The human ships were sleek and fast, much more advanced than anything the Kalani had seen before. "Unknown vessels," came a voice over the radio. "You are entering human territory. State your purpose." Captain Daeho, now the leader of the refugee fleet, answered carefully. "This is Captain Daeho of the Kalani people. We carry a message from one of your own, a human named Jiwoo." There was a long silence from the human ships. Then the voice came back, sounding different now. "Jiwoo? From the exploration ship Soul Star?" "Yes," Daeho said. "We need to speak with your leaders." The human patrol ships guided the Kalani fleet to a large space station orbiting Earth. Through the windows of their ships, the Kalani could see the blue and green world that Jiwoo had called home. It was beautiful, covered with water and clouds. "So much water," whispered Bora, who stood next to Daeho on the bridge. No wonder Jiwoo understood us so well. At the space station, they were met by Admiral Young-ho, a serious man with gray hair and kind eyes. He brought them to a large meeting room where other human officials waited. "Before we begin," Admiral Young-ho said, "I need to know, Jiwoo, is he—" Elder Sunja stepped forward, moving slowly with her walking stick. In her other hand, she carried a small box. "Your Jiwoo died saving our children," she said simply. "He was a hero." The room became very quiet. Sunja opened the box and took out Jiwoo's personal things, his identification card, a small photo of Earth, and the metal bird he had made for Kyungmin, which the little girl had insisted on giving back. "He asked us to give you this," Sunja said, handing Admiral Young-ho the data chip, "and to tell you what he did for us." For the next 3 hours, the Kalani told their story. They spoke of their dying race, of the Vorthak genocide, and of how Jiwoo had helped them learn to fight back. They told of his sacrifice and his final words. Admiral Young-ho listened without speaking. When the story was finished, he looked at the data chip in his hand. "How many of your people are left?" 2,847, Daeho said. "All that remains of our entire species." "And the Vorthak?" "Still hunting us, still killing anyone who tries to help us." Admiral Young-ho stood up and walked to the large window that looked out at Earth. "Jiwoo was my nephew," he said quietly. The Kalani looked at each other in surprise. They had not known this. "His sister, Yoonji, works in our diplomatic corps," the Admiral continued. "His parents live in Seoul, still hoping their son would come home someday." He turned back to face the Kalani. "Now I have to tell them he is never coming back." "He saved us," Sunja said. "He made us remember that we could fight for our lives instead of just running away." The next few days were busy with meetings and discussions. The Kalani were given temporary homes on the space station, while human officials debated what to do. Some wanted to help immediately. Others worried about starting a war with an unknown alien empire. Yoonji, Jiwoo's sister, came to meet the Kalani refugees. She looked much like her brother, with the same kind eyes and gentle manner. "Tell me about his last days," she asked Sunja. They sat together in a quiet room while Sunja shared stories about Jiwoo's time with the Kalani, how he had helped with their water systems, how he had played with the children, how he had taught them new ways to fight. "He spoke of Earth often," Sunja said. "He missed his family very much." Was he happy with you?" Yunji asked. Yes. He found a purpose. He found people who needed him. Yunji wiped tears from her eyes. That sounds like Jiwoo. He always wanted to help others. Meanwhile, in the government buildings of Earth, important people argued about what to do. Tai Yang, the director of colonial affairs, spoke against military action. We do not know enough about this Vorthak Empire, he said in the meeting room. They might have thousands of ships. If we attack them, they might come here and attack Earth. But others disagreed. General Mi Young, who commanded the army forces, stood up. They committed genocide. They killed almost an entire species. How can we do nothing? It is not our fight, Taeyang replied. It became our fight when they killed Jiwoo, said another voice. Everyone turned to look at Admiral Junho, an old soldier, who rarely spoke in these meetings. He was known throughout the military as a man who kept his promises and never backed down from a fight. Explain, said the president. Admiral Junho walked to the front of the room. Jiwoo was not just one person. He represented humanity. When the Kalani saved him, they showed kindness to our entire species. When the Vorthak killed him, they attacked all of us. That is not how interstellar law works, Taeyang said. I do not care about interstellar law, Admiral Junho replied. I care about doing what is right. The debates continued for days. Meanwhile, Admiral Junho quietly began making preparations. He called his most trusted officers to secret meetings. One of these officers was Colonel Su Min, a brilliant strategist who had studied alien military tactics for years. She had been waiting for something like this, a chance to test human military power against a real enemy. What do we know about Vorthak capabilities? Admiral Junho asked her. Based on what the Kalani told us, they rely on overwhelming force, Su Min said, showing pictures and charts on a large screen. Big ships, straightforward attacks, no clever tactics. They are used to fighting people who run away. And if we do not run away, then they will not know what to do. Su Min had been working on battle plans since the Kalani arrived. She called her project Operation Kalani's Debt, a massive military campaign designed to do more than just rescue the remaining Kalani. Her plan would completely destroy the Vorthak threat. How many ships would we need? Admiral Junho asked. All of them, Su Min said simply. All of them. Every military ship humanity has built. Every trained soldier, every weapon. She pointed to a star map showing Vorthak territory. We hit them everywhere at once. We do not give them time to organize or call for help. Admiral Junho looked at the plan for a long time. It was bold beyond anything humanity had ever attempted. It would mean risking everything on one massive battle. The politicians will never approve this, he said. Then we do not tell the politicians, Su Min replied. That evening, Admiral Young-ho brought more news to the Kalani refugees. Our government has decided to offer you asylum, he said. You can stay on Earth or on one of our colony worlds. You will be safe here. We are grateful, Sunja said. But what about the Vorthak? What about the other species they are attacking? Admiral Young-ho looked uncomfortable. The government believes it is too dangerous to get involved. Daeho stood up, his face showing anger for the first time since arriving at Earth. So you will do nothing? The Vorthak will keep killing and you will just watch? I am sorry, Admiral Young-ho said. The decision has been made. That night, Sunja sat alone in her room holding Jiwoo's data chip. Through her window, she could see Earth turning slowly below. Jiwoo had died believing that his people would help. Now it seemed like his sacrifice had been for nothing. There was a soft knock at her door. When she opened it, Admiral Young-ho was standing there, but he was not wearing his uniform. Instead, he wore simple clothes like a regular person. May I come in? He asked. Sunja let him enter. Admiral Young-ho sat down across from her looking tired and sad. I wanted you to know, he said, that not all humans agree with our government's decision, but you must follow orders. Yes, but some orders are wrong. He leaned forward. There are people in our military who remember what honor means, who understand that some debts must be paid. Sunja looked at him carefully. What are you saying? I'm saying that you should not give up hope, and you should be ready to leave this station quickly if someone asks you to. Before Sunja could ask what he meant, Admiral Young-ho was gone. The next morning brought surprising news. Ships were moving throughout human space, military vessels leaving their bases, supply ships carrying weapons and fuel, communication, arrays sending coded messages to every corner of human territory. When government officials asked what was happening, they were told it was routine training exercises. Admiral Junho stood on the bridge of the battleship Incheon, watching as hundreds of human warships gathered in space, more ships than had ever been assembled before, ships that most people did not even know existed. Admiral, said his communications officer, all fleets report ready. Admiral Junho picked up the microphone that would carry his voice to every human military ship in the galaxy. Soldiers of Earth, he said, today we pay a debt. Today we show the galaxy what happens to those who hurt our friends. On the space station, Sunja felt the vibrations as massive engines powered up. Through her window she could see human warships moving past, more ships than she could count. Admiral Young-ho appeared at her door again, this time in full uniform. Elder Sunja, he said formally, I would like to invite you and your people to witness something. He led the Kalani to the station's main observation deck. The first Vorthak commanders to encounter the human fleet thought they were seeing things wrong. Their sensors showed 847 warships jumping into their territory all at once. No species they knew could build that many military vessels. Run the scan again, ordered Fleet Commander Vexitar from his flagship above the conquered Kalani world of Aqua Prime. The numbers cannot be correct. His sensor officer checked the readings 3 times. Commander, I confirm 847 ships. They are moving in perfect formation toward our positions in 12 different systems. Vexitar stared at the tactical display. In 30 years of conquest, he had never seen anything like this. The humans were supposed to be a weak species that barely traveled between stars. How did they have such a massive fleet? Send a message to the human ships, he ordered. Tell them to leave our territory immediately, or be destroyed. The answer came back within minutes. It was a single word. No. Admiral Junho stood on the bridge of the battleship Incheon as it led the main attack fleet toward the Kalani homeworld. Around him, human officers worked at their stations with calm efficiency. They had trained for this kind of operation their entire careers. Admiral, said Captain Changmin, who commanded the stealth reconnaissance ships. Our scouts report heavy, Vorthak presence around Aqua Prime, at least 50 warships in orbit with ground forces controlling the major cities. Any sign of Kalani survivors? Admiral Junho asked. Yes, sir. Our deep scans detect approximately 40,000 Kalani being held in prison camps on the surface. Admiral Junho nodded. This was what they had expected. The Vorthak kept prisoners from conquered worlds to use as workers. General Mi-young, are your ground forces ready? General Mi-young's voice came through the communication system from her assault ship. Ready, Admiral. We have 10,000 Marines in powered armor standing by. Colonel Su-min, what is the tactical situation? Colonel, Su-min stood at the strategy table, surrounded by holographic displays showing all 12 target systems. The Vorthak are responding exactly as predicted. They are concentrating their forces to defend their main bases, leaving their supply lines unprotected. Good. Begin Phase 1. Across Vorthak space, human stealth ships began their work. These small, fast vessels had been traveling through enemy territory for weeks, mapping Vorthak positions and identifying weak points. Now they struck. Lieutenant Commander Jin Woo piloted his stealth fighter through the asteroid field where a Vorthak supply depot was hidden. His ship was so advanced that the enemy sensors could not detect it even when he flew close to their installations. Target acquired, he reported to his squadron. Beginning attack run. The human stealth ships hit fuel depots, communication arrays, and weapon storage facilities across 6 systems. Before the Vorthak knew they were under attack, their ability to coordinate their defenses was crippled. Admiral, reported the communications, Officer aboard the engine. All stealth operations successful. Enemy communications are down in sectors 4, 7, and 12. Excellent. Signal all fleets. Begin Phase 2. The main human battle fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Aqua Prime. System. The Vorthak had never seen ships like these. Sleek vessels covered in armor that seemed to absorb energy weapons, bristling with guns that fired projectiles at incredible speeds. Fleet Commander Vexitar watched the human ships approach with growing alarm. "How many weapons do those ships carry?" he asked his tactical officer. "Sir, each of their battleships appears to have more firepower than 3 of our destroyers. That is impossible. Sir, I am reading energy signatures I have never seen before. Their weapons technology is completely unknown to us." Vextar made a decision. "All ships, attack formation. We will destroy them before they can use those weapons." The Vorthak fleet moved forward to engage the humans. They had twice as many ships, and they were confident in their ability to overwhelm any enemy through sheer numbers. Admiral Junho watched the enemy ships approach on his tactical display. "All ships, you may fire when ready." The human fleet opened fire at a range that surprised the Vorthak commanders. Human railguns launched metal projectiles at nearly the speed of light, while energy weapons focused into tight beams that cut through Vorthak armor like it was paper. "Evasive maneuvers," Vextar shouted as his flagship shook from impact. Around him, Vorthak ships were exploding as human weapons found their targets with devastating accuracy. The battle was over in less than 20 minutes. The Vorthak fleet was completely destroyed, while the human ships suffered only minor damage. "Ground assault teams, you are clear for landing," Admiral Junho announced. General Mi-young led the assault personally, riding in the first transport ship to reach the planet's surface. Her Marines wore powered armor that made them faster and stronger than any normal soldier. Their weapons could punch through Vorthak defenses with ease. "First objective is the prison camps," she ordered. "Get those Kalani to safety." The human ground forces moved through the Vorthak installations like an unstoppable force. The enemy soldiers had never faced anything like human military tactics, coordinated attacks from multiple directions, combined with air support and electronic warfare. Within 6 hours, every Vorthak position on Aqua Prime had been captured or destroyed. The surviving Kalani prisoners were freed and given medical care by human medics. An old Kalani named Dong-su was among the prisoners rescued from the largest camp. He had not seen the sky for 2 years. When the human Marines broke down the prison walls, he could barely believe what was happening. "Who are you?" he asked General Mi-young as she personally helped him walk out of the prison. "We are friends of Jiwoo," she said simply. Dong-su began to cry. Like all Kalani, he had heard the story of the human who died saving their people. "Jiwoo? You knew Jiwoo?" "He was one of ours, and you are under our protection now." Similar scenes played out across 12 star systems, as human fleets systematically destroyed Vorthak forces. The speed and coordination of the attack was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. In the Kalani system of Beta Aqua, Admiral Park led a fleet of fast cruisers against a Vorthak mining operation. The enemy had been extracting water from the Bay system's moons for 3 years. "Sir," reported his tactical officer, "the Vorthak are broadcasting surrender terms." "What are their terms?" Admiral Park asked. "They want to negotiate a partial withdrawal in exchange for keeping some of their mining equipment." Admiral Park's expression did not change. "Tell them we do not negotiate with genocidal murderers. They have 30 minutes to evacuate all personnel, or we will destroy them where they stand." The Vorthak evacuation was chaotic and incomplete. When the 30 minutes were up, human ships destroyed every piece of mining equipment and every military installation in the system. Commander Hae-won, the fleet's communications officer, sent a message on all frequencies. "Any Vorthak forces remaining in Kalani space have 10 standard hours to leave. After that, we will consider your presence an act of war." The message was heard across dozens of systems. Within hours, Vorthak commanders everywhere were ordering full retreats from any territory that had once belonged to the Kalani. Back on Earth, government officials watched the news reports with amazement and alarm. The military had launched the largest offensive in human history without official approval. They cannot do this, Taeyang complained to President Lee. This will start an interstellar war. President Lee looked at the reports coming in from the battle zones. Human casualties were remarkably light, while Vorthak losses were catastrophic. It appears the war is already over, he said. What do you mean? Look at these intelligence reports. Vorthak forces are surrendering across their entire empire. Their allies are abandoning them. Their economy is collapsing. Indeed, the swift and overwhelming human victory was having effects far beyond the battlefield. Other alien species that had been forced to serve the Vorthak Empire began declaring independence. Trade routes controlled by the Vorthak were abandoned as merchants feared human retaliation. Captain Wu Jin, now serving as a liaison officer aboard Admiral Junho's flagship, worked alongside the Kalani refugees who had insisted on joining the campaign. Elder Sunja had been given her own cabin aboard the Incheon, where she coordinated with other Kalani survivors across the rescued systems. How many of our people have been found? She asked Captain Wu Jin. Current count is 63,000, Elder, more than we dared hope. And the humans. How many have they lost? Captain Wu Jin checked his reports. 47 humans have died in the fighting, Elder. They have sacrificed their people to save ours. Sunja felt the weight of that number. 47 families would lose loved ones because humanity had chosen to honor the memory of one human named Jiwoo. The final major battle took place above Vorthak Prime, the capital world of the empire that had terrorized dozens of species. Admiral Junho led the assault personally, bringing the full power of the human fleet against the enemy's last stronghold. The Vorthak defenders fought desperately, knowing that defeat here would mean the end of their empire. But human military, technology and tactics proved overwhelming. When the orbital defense platforms were destroyed, the planet's leaders sent a message of unconditional surrender. 5 years after the last Vorthak ship surrendered, Detective Sung-ho walked through the halls of the War Crimes Tribunal on the moon station Harmony. In his hand, he carried the final case file, the last Vorthak war criminal to be brought to justice. General Vorthak Kexos, he read aloud to the panel of judges representing 12 different species, responsible for the destruction of the Kalani colony on Kalani 4. Estimated civilian deaths, 230,000. The Vorthak general sat in the defendant's chair, his large frame making the furniture look small. His species was built for war, thick armor-like skin, powerful muscles, and sharp teeth. But now he looked small and defeated. How do you plead? Asked Judge Yuki, a human woman who had dedicated her career to interstellar law. I was following orders, the general said in broken common language. That is not a plea, Judge Yuki replied. Guilty or not guilty? The general looked around the courtroom. In the witness section, elderly Kalani survivors waited to tell their stories. Their large eyes held pain that would never fully heal, but also hope for justice. Guilty, he whispered. Sung-ho closed the file. After 5 years, every single Vorthak war criminal had been found and tried. Some had been executed. Others, like this general, would spend the rest of their lives in prison. The message was clear. Genocide would always be punished, but punishment was only part of humanity's promise. The harder part was rebuilding. Dr. Acha stood in the center of New Kalani City, the first major settlement built on the restored homeworld of Aqua Prime. Around her, Kalani children played in parks where once there had been prison camps. The sound of their laughter filled the air. How are the trauma counseling programs working? Asked Kyung-min, who was now grown and served as the city's coordinator for survivor services. Better than expected, Dr. Acha replied. Your people are remarkably resilient. The children especially are adapting well to normal life. Kyung-min smiled. She still carried the small metal bird that Jiwoo had made for her years ago, now worn smooth from handling. Jiwoo always said we were stronger than we thought. The restoration of Kalani civilization was the largest humanitarian project in galactic history. Engineer Dongwoo led teams of humans and Kalani working together to rebuild destroyed cities, clean polluted waters, and restore damaged ecosystems. The coral reefs in Sector 7 are showing new growth, reported marine biologist So Young during the weekly progress meeting. The water purification systems are working even better than the original Kalani technology. Captain Dae Ho, now serving as the Kalani representative to the Restoration Council, nodded with satisfaction. Our ancestors would be amazed to see their homeworld so healthy again. The work was not easy. Entire continents had been strip-mined for water. Oceans had been drained or polluted, but human technology, combined with Kalani knowledge of their own ecosystems, was slowly bringing the world back to life. "We have finished the memorial gardens," announced architect Na Young. "One for every Kalani settlement that was destroyed." The memorial gardens were perhaps the most important part of the restoration. Each one contained the names of every Kalani who had died in the genocide, over 40 million beings. At the center of the largest garden stood a simple statue of a human and a Kalani standing together, representing the friendship between Jiwoo and his rescuers. But the restoration was not limited to Kalani worlds. Across the galaxy, humanity was building something new, an alliance of species dedicated to preventing future genocides. Ambassador Kang Ho stood before the Galactic Council on the neutral world of Harmony Station. Representatives from 43 different species filled the Great Hall, more than had ever gathered in one place before. "The Charter for Galactic Protection is simple," he announced, holding up a document that had taken 2 years to negotiate. "Any species that commits genocide will face the combined military might of all Charter signatories. Any species that prevents genocide will receive our full support." In the audience, Soonja listened with pride. At 90 years old, she was one of the few Kalani who remembered life before the war. She had lived to see her people not just survive, but become leaders in building a better galaxy. "The first signatory," Ambassador Kang Ho continued, "will be the Kalani Republic, followed by the Terran Federation. Who else will join us?" One by one, species representatives stood to sign the charter. The Zephrani, crystal beings who communicated through light patterns. The Methani, gas-based life forms who had lived in the outer systems. The Tarn, insectoid people who had once been enemies of humanity, but now sought alliance. Cultural attaché, Yejin worked with each species to ensure the charter would work for all forms of life. "The beauty of this agreement," she explained to reporters, "is that it protects not just individual species, but the diversity of life itself." The ceremony was broadcast across the galaxy. On Earth, in the city of Seoul, an old woman named Kim watched the news with tears in her eyes. She was Jiwoo's mother, and she had lived to see her son's sacrifice become the foundation of galactic peace. "He would have loved this," she whispered to her daughter Yoonji, who sat beside her. "He made this possible," Yoonji replied. "Everything we have built comes from his choice to help strangers." Meanwhile, on the research station orbiting the restored Kalani homeworld, scientists from dozens of species worked together on projects that would have been impossible before the war. Dr. Min Seo, a human geneticist, collaborated with Kalani biologist Bo-Ra to restore extinct species. "We have successfully grown the first Kalani coral polyps in 50 years, Bo-Ra announced to her team. "The genetic samples we preserved during the evacuation are viable." "This is just the beginning," Dr. Min Seo added. "With this technique, we can restore the ecosystems of any world damaged by war or disaster." The work was not just about science, it was about hope. Every restored species, every cleaned ocean, every rebuilt city was proof that destruction could be undone, that kindness could triumph over cruelty. Chancellor Byung-ho of the Terran Federation often visited the Kalani worlds to check on the progress. During one such visit, he met with Elder Soonja in her home overlooking the great ocean of Aqua Prime. "Do you ever regret rescuing Jiwoo?" he asked. "If you had left him in space, none of this would have happened. Your people might have found another hiding place." Soonja looked out at the ocean, where young Kalani swam and played in the clean water. "Every choice has consequences," she said, "but I cannot regret choosing compassion over fear." "Even knowing the cost?" "Especially knowing the cost." She turned to face the Chancellor. Jiwoo taught us that some things are worth fighting for, worth dying for. Your people proved that some things are worth living for. The conversation was interrupted by the sound of children laughing outside. Through the window, they could see Kalani youngsters playing with human children, whose families had come to help with the restoration. The children did not see differences in species. They just saw friends. That is our real victory, Sunja said, pointing to the playing children. Not the military conquest, but this, a generation that will grow up believing that different species can trust each other. As the years passed, the story of Jiwoo and the Kalani spread throughout the galaxy. It became more than history. It became legend. Parents told it to their children as a lesson about courage and kindness. Diplomats quoted it in peace negotiations. Soldiers remembered it when facing difficult choices. Commander Hyun-woo, now head of the Kalani Defense Force, often spoke to young officers about those desperate days in the hidden moon base. Jiwoo could have stayed safe, he would tell them. He could have let us handle our own problems. But he chose to help strangers. And that choice changed everything. The Kalani Defense Force was now part of the larger Galactic Protection Fleet, with human and Kalani ships serving together to prevent future genocides. They had intervened in 3 conflicts already, stopping wars before they could become massacres. On the 10th anniversary of the end of the Vorthak War, a great celebration was held on Aqua Prime. Representatives from every species in the Galactic Protection Alliance came to honor the memory of one human and the friendship that saved the galaxy. Admiral Jun-ho, now retired but still respected throughout human space, gave the keynote speech at the memorial to Jiwoo. 10 years ago, he said, we learned that the measure of a civilization is not its military power or its wealth. It is how it treats those who cannot protect themselves. Jiwoo understood this. The Kalani who saved him understood this. And because they understood, the galaxy is a better place. In the audience, Kyungmin held her own daughter, a young Kalani girl who had never known war or fear. The child played with the old metal bird, not knowing that it represented the moment when everything changed. Tell me the story again, Mama, the little girl whispered. Once upon a time, Kyungmin began, there was a human named Jiwoo who was lost in space, and some kind people found him and brought him home. And then what happened? Then the humans' people came to say thank you, and they helped the kind people build a new home where everyone could be safe and happy. Is it true? Every word, Kyungmin said, kissing her daughter's forehead. And that is why we must always be kind to strangers, because you never know when that kindness might change the whole universe.